Tonight was the Thanksgiving Eve episode of AEW Dynamite. Turkey Day is almost here. Getting ready for all that food. I'm getting a headache just thinking about it. I have 2 Thanksgiving feasts on Thursday and Friday. I'm already dreading all the food I'm going to be eating. But before we get there, we had Dynamite tonight coming out of Full Gear. And as we are heading into the month of December, it is also the beginning of the Continental Classic. I believe this is the 3rd year in a row that they are doing this tournament. And tonight was almost entirely dedicated to the Continental Classic. We had a whole series of matches here with one women's tag team titled tournament match sprinkled in, along with a Samoa Joe promo, having just beat Hangman Page to win the AEW World Championship at Full Gear. It only made sense that we would hear from Joe here on this show. I don't like how we got no explanation from Hook about why he did what he did or how far back this plan goes. Of course, we saw Hook on Saturday come out and factor directly into the finish, assisting Joe in winning the championship. We didn't really get much out of him tonight. We flat out had Eddie Kingston in a backstage promo say, "I'm not addressing Hook. I'm not addressing the Hook thing tonight." So they didn't get into any of that stuff. And we have no idea at all whatsoever as far as what direction they are going in next for Chris Statlander, coming off of her Women's World Championship win over Mercedes Moné. She was on the show briefly in a backstage segment. They gave no indication of where she is headed next. So we have no idea. Now, me personally, I'm a fan of the Continental Classic. I know not everybody is. Typically, you're not going to get a whole lot in the way of story with it. If you look at the way that the leagues are put together this year, there's definitely more story or more story potential in this year's tournament, probably than any of the ones they've done so far. So we know that in the Gold League, we have Darby Allin, we have Pac, we have Kevin Knight, Speedball Mike Bailey, Kyle Fletcher, and Kazuchika Okada. We just saw Pac pick up a win at Full Gear over Darby. So it stands to reason that at some point here in the Gold League, Darby will likely get his win back over Pac. But that's the Gold League. It also means that Okada is going to have to wrestle Kyle Fletcher, right? We knew that, and we had that tonight. But as soon as it was announced, we knew those two were going to have to wrestle. Speedball and Kevin Knight, they're going to have to wrestle each other as well. Of course, they're tag team partners. On the Blue League side, we have Konosuke Takeshita, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong taking the place of the injured Kyle O'Reilly. Injured. I'm not sure it's any sort of legitimate injury, but they're claiming that coming out of his match with Jon Moxley, he's too beat up to be a participant in the tournament. So Roddy ends up getting his spot. And Mascara Dorada. So you look at the Blue League, and the thing that stands out like neon lights, flashing lights, is that Moxley and Claudio are going to have to wrestle each other. And now we know that that match is going to be taking place next week. And I look at these two leagues, and for me, the Gold League is the superior of the two leagues. I mean, I look at the Gold League and the Blue League here. I'm a Gold League guy. But this tournament, we talk about story threads here in this tournament. Everything is primed and set up for a finals confrontation between Okada and Takeshita, which is the story that honestly is my favorite on AEW television now for the past few months. And they've taken the slow burn approach with it. Everything is building and building, and it seems to be building. I mean, I've been saying this for a few months now. Everything would seem to be building for the finals of this tournament, right? They're in opposing leagues. We know that the finals, actually the finals of each league and the finals of the entire thing are taking place at World's End. So that's coming up on December 27th. That's about a month away. Everything needs to be building to Okada and Takeshita, which makes things very predictable. It does. But that's okay. If the story is there and you're building up to a match that people want to see, that's fine. What we actually got on the show tonight were a couple of upsets, in my opinion. A couple of upsets here in this tournament, and it's only the first night. So we'll get into what those were. And then we'll get through your super chat questions and get you on out of here for the holiday. But thank you for spending your Thanksgiving Eve with me. It is Wednesday, November 26th, 2025. This is your AEW Dynamite Thanksgiving Eve review. I am the Solomonster, celebrating 18 years of the Sound Off all November long as we wind down. We only got one more live stream left to go. That's Survivor Series coming up this weekend because I will not be here on Friday. Like and subscribe. Like I said, Super Chats are open. I will be reading your messages in a little bit. So we're going to get on into that, and then we'll get you on out of here. So let's start from the top, because we kicked off the Continental Classic with Gold League action here on the show tonight with two members of the Don Callis family. We had Kazuchika Okada. Now, this is where it gets a little messy. So we know that Okada beat Kenny Omega to become the first ever unified champion. And in so doing, he unified the international title and the Continental title to form the unified championship, which we were told at the time does not mean that the international title and the Continental title are retired. In fact, their lineage lives on, according to Tony Khan. So in theory, all these months have gone by. Okada could defend any of those championships individually. Now, of course, he didn't, and he's not going to. So he's had this unified title. But now the Continental Classic is here. And we see the Continental Championship is sitting on top of the announce desk at ringside. So we have Okada and we have Kyle Fletcher, two members of the Callis family, who are going to go one-on-one here. Don Callis is on commentary at ringside. Now, they make it very clear in these matches there is no outside interference. Managers are not allowed at ringside. But the loophole is that Callis sometimes does commentary, so they allow him at ringside to do commentary. Now, it's less of a concern, I guess, here in a match like this because both men happen to be a part of his family, which is not hard to believe because he's got 1 million members of his family. But still, it's a little bit of a loophole that's kind of dumb, don't you think? I mean, either people are allowed at ringside or they're not. They should not be making exceptions for anyone. But the Continental title is sitting right there on top of the announce desk. And this tournament is not for the Unified Championship. They made that clear. It is for the Continental title. Which means that if Okada does not win this tournament, there is no longer a Unified Championship. That belt goes away. Because let's say Takeshita wins the tournament. Takeshita would be the new Continental Champion. Okada would just be the International Champion. Because that title still lives on. He even walked out with it to the ring tonight. But the Continental title and the International title would effectively replace the Unified Championship, which would be on the back burner at least temporarily. This is all very convoluted and very unnecessary. And I said as much when they introduced this championship. I say it whenever they introduce any new championship in this company. They just introduced the National Championship, which really serves the purpose that the international title originally served in this company before they got away from, doing defenses overseas and in other promotions. But this is what happens when, you have Tony Khan, who has a belt fetish and can't help himself, and he's introducing this belt and this belt and this belt and this belt. You end up with a tournament here where things are just more convoluted than they need to be. And there's any number of things. Namely, you can have a shot at the World Championship. And when they first introduced this tournament, I talked about this. This is 3 years ago. This is not new stuff. I'm not going to relitigate that. But watching that and listening to them explain it, I get what they're saying, but it's still unnecessarily convoluted. The whole thing is just very stupid. Anyway, Okada reached out for a handshake at the bell. They both tried to kick each other during the handshake, and they ended up holding each other's legs. So they worked through some counters and reversals, slapped hands to show some respect to each other. After some back and forth, Okada teased a slap to the chest, but he pulled back. And he landed a kick. Fletcher, though, very quickly hit the ropes and fired back with a tackle. Okada, he crotched Fletcher in the corner by shoving the referee into the ropes with his foot. And then he drop-kicked him off the ropes and out to the floor. That took us into a commercial. So Fletcher returned the favor by shoving the referee into the ropes and causing Okada to crotch himself. Then he jumped to the top rope. He delivered a superplex. Later on in the match, Okada rolled to the outside. Fletcher pursued him and got tripped on the apron. And Okada quickly delivered a DDT from the apron to the floor. He then took the action back into the ring. Okada delivered a tombstone pile driver. Fletcher recovered, though. Countered into a Michinoku driver. Could not make a cover, though. And at this point, we got the time call from Justin Roberts. 15 minutes, 5 remaining, because these matches have 20-minute time limits. Again, you get 3 points for a win. No points if you don't win. So Fletcher picked up Okada, and he lawn darted him into the middle turnbuckle in the corner. He followed that up with a Liger bomb, covered for a close near fall. Fletcher attempted a brainbuster. Okada slipped out, though, and he gouged the eyes. He went for a Rainmaker. Fletcher, though, countered into a roll-up pin, and he got the win. With the flash pin, Kyle Fletcher picks up the win here. And after the match was over, Fletcher offered a handshake. Okada was teasing the flip-off, but instead he put the hand in for the handshake. And Callis was all smiles, and he got in the ring, and he held up both men's arms and celebrated with both of them. This was a very good match. Hot start here to the tournament, with Fletcher now beating Okada back-to-back years in the Continental Classic because they had a match on Collision 1 year ago, and Fletcher beat Okada then. So here we are in 2025. History repeats itself. Fletcher is also coming off a loss at Full Gear. He lost his TNT Championship to Mark Briscoe. So this was, a big way to get him back in the win column with a win over somebody who's not undefeated, but Okada has been largely protected, in the time that he has been in this company. I mean, I think he's beginning of next year, he'll be going on 2 years? I think 2 full years as a full-time performer in this company. And you could probably count the number of losses that he has taken, if not on one hand, definitely on 2, and still have fingers left over. So he's very well protected. When he gets beat, it does feel like it means something. It'll mean more to Fletcher being able to, pick up a win like that. No harm to Okada. We know that Okada is going to the finals. Is he going to win? Is he going to lose? We can, talk about that. I think Takeshita, this should be his tournament to lose. But regardless, we know what the final is going to be. Anything other than Okada and Takeshita in the finals, to me, would be ridiculous. So it's predictable. So what do? This is one of the things that you can do. You could shake things up a little bit by giving people an outcome that a lot of fans probably wouldn't be expecting. Now, all of a sudden, Okada, who's the favorite to at least go to the finals, is now fighting from behind, right? You give him a little bit of adversity. Now he's got to, fight his way back because the points went to the other guy. So I like that they started the tournament with, an upset win right out of the gate. They gave you what I would consider to be an upset win. But this was a very good match. Now, backstage, Lexi Nair was talking to Kenny Omega, who popped out of his dressing room, and she asked if it's safe to say that after the events of Full Gear, that he and the Young Bucks have been reunited. And Omega said that we've seen him do things that he's not proud of. And he's been fooled by Don Callis before also, right, as have the Bucks. So he would be a fool not to take that into account with where he and the Young Bucks stand. And if his friends are willing to accept him, and the fans are willing to accept him for who he is, after all that he's done, who is he to say that the Bucks don't deserve a second chance? That's all he had to say, and he retreated back into his dressing room. And maybe 5 seconds go by, and the door swings open again, and who comes out but the Young Bucks? And Lexi has a very confused look on her face as the Bucks say, "Oh, excuse me," and they just walk away. I'm not sure why she was so confused in this moment, because she literally led the interview off by asking Kenny Omega, is it safe to assume that you guys are reunited and back on the same page? So I'm not sure why she had this confused expression on her face. But that was the extent to which we had any sort of, follow-up to what we saw on Saturday, where we did have an elite reunion at the end of that $1 million match. Which ended up being, by the way, the $1 million that they made such a big deal about in that match, that technically, the Bucks won. And then, Hechicero was walking. They stole the money back. Hechicero was walking around with the money at the end of the pay-per-view. Total non-factor. We'll see if it gets brought up on Collision, because they're taping Collision, which is airing tomorrow night. But the $1 million, which is supposed to be a big deal, was a total non-factor. So we got highlights of the TNT title match at Full Gear with Mark Briscoe finally beating Kyle Fletcher. And we go to Briscoe, who is sitting in a chair backstage, still bloody, fresh off the match. He's got his brand new TNT championship. And he says that he lost the most important thing to him, his brother, his other half. It's been a long road since then, not knowing if he would want to continue wrestling without him. Should I even keep doing this? But he realized that he had to do it for family. Says this title is for not only his real family, but his road family as well, the conglomeration. It's also for Delaware. And then he looks up and he says that this is for Jay. And, he said had a little more to say to it than that, but that was kind of the gist of it. I thought this was a hell of a promo, just very heartfelt. He wasn't acting all wacky and goofy and crazy like he normally does and over the top. They shot this immediately after the match on Saturday, and it was just a very short, to the point, heartfelt babyface promo. So I thought this was good. And again, where he goes from here, we don't know. There's a lot we don't know as far as where certain champions and certain people are going coming out of Full Gear. They didn't have time to address all of it. I think they still should have addressed some of it more than they did, given that this was the first big show coming out of the pay-per-view. But again, they're taping Collision, which is airing tomorrow, and we'll see if they shed any more light on that. We had a semifinal round match in the women's tag team title tournament. 2 tournaments at once we have here. We have a women's tournament. We have the Continental Classic. Wouldn't shock me, by the way, if next year we get a women's Continental Classic. I'm going to make that prediction now. But we had Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron against the Sisters of Sin, Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Hart and Blue, they delivered a double-team pancake to Harley Cameron, but Willow pulled Julia to the floor and then tossed her into the barricade. While Harley regained control inside the ring, Julia created a distraction so Sky Blue could deliver a neck breaker. And that took us into a commercial break. Now, after the break, Julia walked the rope. She delivered a flying forearm. Harley desperately reached for the tag. She got the tag to Willow. Sky Blue made a blind tag. She waited for Willow to land a spine buster to then make a surprise ambush. Hart and Blue, they delivered double kicks front and back to Willow. And Sky Blue covered only for a 2 count. Willow fired back with a double suplex, and then Harley tagged in. And she ended up down as Julia went up for her moonsault. Now, Julia Hart has a great-looking moonsault. It's very smooth as she's sailing through the air. The problem in this case was she came down for the moonsault, and she completely overshot Harley Cameron. There was nobody there. So Harley is laying here, and Julia went a little past her. And then she tried to compensate because she realized she fucked up. So she kind of pops up, not even to her feet, almost to like her knees. And she immediately pops up and then sort of flopped onto her with a like a little diving elbow, just to try to salvage the spot. This was very embarrassing. I mean, look, shit happens, but this did not look good here. So Willow ends up getting a blind tag. Harley lands a backstabber on Sky Blue, while Willow delivers a doctor bomb to Julia for the win. I don't know. Maybe Julia saw somebody. Maybe John Cena is retiring in a few weeks. Maybe he's making the rounds. Maybe she saw John Cena laying there, and I don't know. She overshot her target. But Willow and Harley pick up the win. It got a little messy, and not even just the moonsault spot. Like in the immediate aftermath of the moonsault spot, it just got a little messy here at the end. I thought it was solid enough, though, on the whole. So Willow and Harley, they advance to the finals. They're going to face either Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, babyfaces against babyface, or they'll be wrestling Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. I could see this going either way. Now, I made a prediction on my end at the beginning of all this that Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa would win the women's tag team titles. A couple of big names, especially Toni. I mean, Toni is the biggest name in the women's division. You put those titles on the two of them, they don't have a whole lot going on right now. I'm not saying they need it. They don't need, I mean, it's not like, oh, if they don't win these titles, my God, what are they going to do? But right now, they don't have anything going on, right? They had championships of their own. They both lost them. They found each other. So it stands to reason that they would stand tall at the end of this tournament, right? Two big names in that division, be the first women's tag team champions. And then whoever they drop those titles to, whoever they feud with and they drop those belts to later on, whenever they lose them, would hopefully, be better off for having beaten Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. That's kind of my logic behind them winning this tournament. Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron could very easily win this tournament because the fans like them. I mean, Willow's awesome. Harley is great, right? Very likable, very charismatic. So is Willow. I don't have any issue with any of them winning this tournament. I'm going to stick with my prediction, even though Tony and Mina, they won the 4-way at Full Gear. So they won the right to pick a stipulation for their match against Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir, which I'll get to later. And that makes it a little less likely that they're going to come out on top in that match, but I'm sticking with them. I'm still picking them to win the tournament. Now, after this, Tony Schiavone was in the ring. By the way, wait until we get to the stipulation for that match. Gee, I wonder what kind of stipulation they're going to pick for that match in this tournament. I'll give you a hint. If you've been watching AEW television for the past 2 weeks, it should be pretty easy to figure out what kind of match it's going to be. Tony Schiavone was in the ring after a break to introduce the brand new 2-time AEW World Champion and still 1/3 of the Trios champions. He's a double champion. He had gold over both shoulders. Samoa Joe out to the ring with Powerhouse Hobbs and Katsuyori Shibata. Joe immediately swipes the microphone away from Schiavone, tells him tonight is a celebration, so don't ruin it and take your hillbilly ass out of here. So before Joe could say anything else, they cut to outside the venue. And we see Swerve Strickland. He pulls up. I don't even think he was driving. It was Prince Nana who was driving. He pulls up in an SUV outside, and Nana tells him, "Go get him, boss." And he's got a staple gun, his favorite weapon of choice. So Swerve is walking into the building, and that's when all of a sudden you see Hangman Adam Page shows up and joins him. And now he's walking into the building as well, and he has a chain in his hand. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, the sight of the two of them now as allies, side by side, walking into the building like that was pretty cool. So the two of them walk backstage. In the ring, Joe, who sees all of this happening, he tells Shibata, "Go get the scrubs." And moments later, Shibata brings out the members of the Ops Dojo to the ring. So this is why when I talk about these shows and I talk about the security geeks, or on Saturday I talked about the Ops Dojo geeks, it's because that's what they are. Like Joe himself is calling them scrubs. I call them geeks. He calls them scrubs. That's their role. That's their job on the show. Their job is to show up and get their asses handed to them. So you already knew what was coming. So Shibata returns. He's got all of the dojo geeks with him in the ring now. And the Ops Dojo guys are surrounding the ring as Joe says that everything went according to plan. Shibata, he nullified Eddie Kingston, and Hobbs showed off his feats of strength, all the way to me muscle-bustering Hangman in the middle of the ring. The simpletons here in the crowd won't understand what went down, so here's a video package on how we got here. So they cut to a video package of Hook and how he started running with Eddie Kingston and showing the run-in where Hook had a little run-in many, many weeks ago with Joe and Hobbs backstage, with Hook telling Joe, "I'll always have your back." And then Hook turning on Hangman at Full Gear, helping Joe win the championship. So Joe said that was some of his best work, and now the fans can have a champion worthy of being called the greatest in this industry. So Joe introduces Hook, who comes out to his terrible music. And I will say this. Now that he's a heel, this crooner music that he has, awful as it is, as a wrestling theme song, it's just fucking terrible. I mean, I'm not saying that sitting around, sipping a latte at home, reading the newspaper, it's not a bad song to have playing in the background. But as far as a wrestling entrance theme is concerned, it sucks. But now that he's a heel, it's a little bit better than it was when he was a babyface coming out to it. Because now it just fits a little bit better as far as like this smug, heelish persona that he has now. But it's still terrible. Like, it's just absolutely awful. So Hook comes out. He hugs the Ops. Hook said that Joe was right. All these rednecks are too stupid to realize that he's the greatest second-generation wrestler this business has ever seen. That's about all we got out of Hook here. Now, we can listen to Joe, and we can watch the little video package and deduce that this was a plan all along, right? But even so, it would have been nice to hear a little bit more from Hook, given how important his role was in the pay-per-view on Saturday. We didn't get much out of him here until Swerve's new music hits, and they show him, and he's coming through the crowd, and I guess as they say, he's aura farming. That's what he's doing as he's slowly walking through the crowd. We have Swerve aura farming as he makes his way out to the ring. Meanwhile, Hangman's music follows, and then they show him. He's at the bar. They're in one of these small. They were in Nashville, I believe, tonight. It might have been some kind of music hall. It was a small venue, and there's like a little bar in the back. So of course, Hangman's at the bar, and he downs a shot. And he proceeds to make his way through the crowd now. So they start wasting different members of the dojo. All the dojo geeks, they're taking them out with their various weapons, the staple gun and the chain. Hangman actually had a beer bottle, and he smashed the beer bottle over one of their heads. And whoever this geek was, he took this incredible bump, where it was like a delayed bump where like a tree falling, and he just slowly fell down face first on the floor outside. So that was great. He just splatted on the ground. So Paige and Strickland, they rush the ring. Of course, the Ops bails. And there's two dojo dorks who are left behind, and they get chains wrapped around their necks. They get thrown over the top rope. Hangman is hanging one of them. Swerve is hanging the other one, as they're looking at Joe and the Ops on stage, who are watching all of the mayhem that is unfolding in front of them. And that's what brought the segment to a close. Can I just say this? I didn't mention this on Saturday, but just watching what Swerve has done so far since coming back, it is kind of ridiculous that the last time that we saw Swerve Strickland, before he went away, he was injured, storyline injured, right? By the Don Callis family, right? Whether it was Okada or Wardlow, whatever it was the Callis family that was in storyline responsible for Swerve Strickland being on the shelf and needing surgery and being out for a few months. And then the first time that we see Swerve back on TV, he's not going after the Callis family. He's coming out and going after the Ops. Same thing tonight. He's out there. He's got his staple gun, and he's going after the Ops. Now, why wouldn't he be going after the Callis family, since they're the ones that took him out in the first place? They're the ones that laid him up on the shelf for months. There's been no mention of this. It's just sort of forgotten about. It's kind of ridiculous. But I am happy to see him back, and it's a big get for Tony Khan as far as big names that have been out, being able to get him back and having him right away, basically in the world title picture. I mean, there would have been no harm in having him come back and try to take a measure of revenge on one of the many members of the Callis family, whoever it was, and then transition him back into the world title picture. But he's in the world title picture now, and that's the big question now. We have World's End coming up on December 27th. So we know the Continental Classic finals are going to be there, but what's the title match going to be? Are they just going to set up for another match, a third match? Because now they're 1-1 between Samoa Joe and Hangman Page. If so, where does Swerve fit into all this? Does Swerve just wrestle, Powerhouse Hobbs? What does he do? Because to go to Swerve and Joe really doesn't make any sense because Swerve hasn't even wrestled a match in months. What has he done to earn a shot at the world championship? He's got to get some W's under his belt first. That hasn't happened yet. So I'm not sure who's getting that match. Right now, it would appear to be Hangman and Joe again at World's End. MJF is still out there. We don't know when he's going to be back. He's got that contract, so he's sort of lurking in the shadows somewhere. So that's another question that still has to be answered is who is going to be, next in line to challenge. If you do Joe and Hangman again, a third match at World's End, that could very well be where MJF shows up, but he can't cash in because the rule is he got to give a week's notice. So he could show up, but that doesn't mean he's actually going to be able to cash in and win the championship. I still think that, the longer term play here is to get that belt back on MJF and to do MJF and Swerve. That's a match that they have not done. They have teased it. That's a huge match. Maybe that's a match that doesn't happen until later in 2026. Maybe that's, the big all-in match next year at Wembley. But we still have him, again, lurking in the shadows, and we'll see, how much longer it takes to get him back in the fold. But Joe, I'd like to see Joe get more than a month with it. I think this is something you can play out for a few months. What they did last time when Joe won the title from MJF, he won it at World's End, then he held it until Dynasty. So he had a solid, 4 months, 3.5 months as the champion. I wouldn't mind seeing that again, at least to Revolution. I think you can keep the belt on Joe and keep pushing the ops and take it at least until Revolution before you possibly, change the title from him to somebody else. Maybe MJF. I wouldn't just put the belt right back on Hangman. I think you want to just play this out for a little bit. But yeah, World's End, to me, as I sit here right now, it would seem to me that one more match with Hangman and Joe is what would make the most sense. Having Swerve in there, to me, just it doesn't compute. You got to really build to that. Now, one more thing about that, by the way, before I move on. Joe is 1/3 of the Trios champions. Samoa Joe does not need to be a Trios champion. If he is the AEW World Champion, and hopefully will be for a little bit, Hook now is back with the ops, it appears. I think that he should gift his Trios title to Hook and let Hook and Hobbs and Shibata defend them. I really don't think there's a need to keep that belt on Joe. I mean, I guess they like the visual of him having 2 titles, but if I'm them, I'm just having him as a reward, right? As a reward for doing what he did at Full Gear, his holiday gift in the spirit of the holiday season, with Christmas coming up. Samoa Joe, he could even put it in a gift box next week. Present Hook with this gift. He should have done it tonight, honestly. But present him with a gift, and that gift is his Trios Championship. And that's the way you get it off Joe. Now, after the match from Full Gear on Saturday, there were some post-match comments backstage at the Prudential Center. From Jon Moxley after his loss to Kyle O'Reilly. Moxley said he's doing just fine while O'Reilly is headed to the hospital. And we got footage of Moxley tapping out. Meanwhile, Pac won his match against Darby Allin. So the battles always continue tomorrow, he says, as the playoffs are about to begin. And the rest of the Death Riders are just in the background watching as Moxley walks out of the shot. It was very interesting to pay attention to their facial expressions. They just did not, like coming out of that match when Moxley lost and then he beat up Kyle and then, as he was leaving, they look very nonplussed with Moxley. All the signs are there. They've dropped a lot of little hints. Everything is building, hopefully, to a big angle next week. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that led into the Blue League action in the Continental Classic with Jon Moxley against Mascara Dorada. As soon as I saw Mascara Dorada in that list of participants, I said, I know exactly what his role is here in this tournament, but this is interesting. It's an interesting little clash of styles here between these two. Slower pace to start as Moxley tried to keep Dorada grounded until Dorada ramped it up, hit this wild head scissors to the outside. Moxley sidestepped a dive, slid back into the ring, hit one of his own, but he came out so fast, not as fast as Darby, but he came out of the ring so fast and head first. He went head first right into the top apparently padded part of the barricade. But yeah, he basically lawn darted himself into the top of the barricade. Back inside, Dorada hit a springboard crossbody as Moxley rolled to the ramp. And again, he avoided a dive. He actually dove off the ramp, which is every time I see somebody doing that, yeah, because they run these smaller venues. So it's you have the stage and a very short ramp to the ring. But it just reminds me of how Adam Cole got hurt, because they ran that Grand Slam show a couple years ago. And he came out and he jumped off. Like he jumped off the ramp to the floor and fucked himself up badly. So now every time I see someone who just like jumps off the ramp like that, it's only a few feet. But I'm like, please don't pull an Adam Cole. So Moxley, he avoids disaster by, jumping down to the floor. And at that point, Dorada was going to come off. He got a running start. He was going to jump off the ramp himself with a dive. But as he did so, on the way down, he got caught with a forearm shot. Not very smart. After a break, Moxley tried to create some distance, but Dorada would not allow it. He hit a tornado dive to the floor. Dorada was too slow to follow up, allowing Moxley to fire off a cutter. Dorada got an armbar as Moxley scrambled. And I have to give them credit for this because the way that they have had Moxley submitting, like in this feud with Kyle O'Reilly, especially, and he's been submitting to various holds and he's been panicking anytime he gets trapped in a submission hold. He tapped out to Darby right in the Scorpion Deathlock at Wrestle Dream. They've done a good job of conditioning the audience to think that this guy might actually submit. Because the crowd really reacted here as Dorada got that arm. It wasn't even a great armbar, honestly, but he got on some version of an armbar, and people were sort of buying into it. So Moxley got out of it. He mounted him with punches. Dorada went up top, though, hit a 450 splash. Moxley kicked out. Dorada went up top again. He tried a shooting star press, but this time Moxley got the knees up. He turned it into some sort of a choke. It's like they were almost head-to-head, laying down, but he reached up and he kind of grabbed him, like under his armpit and under the throat, and he grabbed some sort of sleeper hold on, and Dorada was flailing his legs and scrambling around and trying to get his feet on the ropes, but he wasn't anywhere close. And then eventually he faded. He went out. We got the ref stoppage, and Jon Moxley wins the match. Good match here. Again, Dorada, he is the Beast Mortos of the tournament this year, or the Jay Lethal of the tournament this year, where I'm not sure he's going to win any matches. If he does, he might win one. But his job in this tournament is to go in there and have good matches and make his opponents look really good and then lose. That's his role, and it's the same role that Lethal and Juice Robinson and Mark Briscoe in years past and other people have had, where he's not racking up a whole lot of points. But he can go in there, probably work with almost anybody, and have at least a good match. And that's what this was. Again, you have two guys who wrestle two completely different styles. This was a Jon Moxley match. There were no weapons. There were no forks. There was no blood. None of that. There was a lot of lucha, and I thought they worked well together. Now, after the match, Marina Shafir came to the ring because she wasn't allowed at ringside during the match. But she came to the ring to, thank you, it was a reverse cravat. I couldn't think of what the name of that hold was. A reverse cravat. So Marina hits the ring. She's checking on Moxley. And we hear Timeless Tony Storm's music. So this was interesting because we had a Timeless Tony Storm promo basically on Jon Moxley with Jon Moxley in the ring. She comes out. She gets into the ring with Moxley and Marina Shafir. She tells Johnny that his eyes were not deceiving him. This is Timeless Tony Storm, the toughest, most resilient, least bitchy person in the ring. Despite Moxley's love of cargo pants, she says she likes him. Whereas he operates in fear and hate, she operates in love, which is far more violent than he could ever imagine. Storm would love to stay and chat all night, just us gals, but she has a message for his cave woman daughter. as per the Love Bombs win at Full Gear, their stipulation in their semifinal round match has to be brutal enough to exact revenge while entertaining enough for the sickos. She said it, not me. She said that she couldn't come up with a stipulation for their match, but then she had an epiphany. After 4 nights straight, she rolled over in bed and saw her sweet Mina. And Mina, at this point, she walked out on stage, and my God, this woman was just busting. I don't know any other way to put it. Just busting out of her top here as she walked out on stage. And Tony says she realized that she hadn't gotten her anything for Christmas. So Tony said her gift to Mina is a no disqualification, no tags, hardcore holiday death match in the women's tag team title tournament against Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne. And Moxley had to physically restrain Marina Shafir from attacking Tony at the end of the segment. Because, of course, we haven't gotten enough hardcore action. We haven't gotten enough blood and tacks and barbed wire and kendo sticks and tables and weapons and glass here in this tournament. So let's do it again.
I am the learning tree.
Let's do it again.
Thanks, guys.
They're obsessed. They are truly, truly obsessed. This tournament doesn't need any stipulations. But we're right back to the hardcore stuff because we haven't gotten enough of it over the last 2 weeks. So that'll be next week. I'm sure the sickos will enjoy. Renee was backstage with Chris Statlander, calling her the greatest in the galaxy, the second woman ever in AEW to pin Mercedes Moné. Statlander said that she's seen nothing but disbelief in people's faces that she is the only person to win the women's and TBS titles. There's 3 options for her going forward. You could face the past, you could face the present, or you could look to the future. Statlander knows where she's going. Who's coming with me? That was it. We learned absolutely nothing about what's next for Chris Statlander, the women's world champion. We know nothing. Like Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. We got no clarity at all about where she's going. So who she's going to defend her championship against? I look at the division, right? A lot of the women right now are tied up in this women's tag team tournament. I mean, some have already been eliminated, but a lot of the women, the key women, are involved right now in the tournament, at least for a few more weeks. They're not going to go back to Statlander and Mercedes again. They're not going to Statlander and Toni Storm. So I'm looking at like who could, potentially be next in line here for Statlander. And I don't know who that person is going to be. Whoever it is, I think is just going to be more of a placeholder, honestly, until they eventually get to who that woman is really going to be that is going to take the championship from her. I think that woman should be Jamie Hayter when the time is right. And I'm talking months down the road. Statlander has wins over Toni Storm. Actually, 2 wins over Toni Storm. And she went from back-to-back wins over Toni Storm to beating Mercedes, only the second person to do that. So this woman ought to be holding on to that championship for at least another 6 months. When the time is right, I believe the person should be Jamie Hayter. But you have to build to it. You got to build to it. But if you do that, when the time is right, whether it's Double or Nothing or All In or Dynasty or whatever it is, Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter, that's a big match to do. And that's someone who I could see taking the championship away from her. Now, you could also go Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne, when she was first called up from the minor leagues, when she first arrived on the scene in AEW, almost instantly, they vaulted her into a women's championship feud with Toni Storm. And that was a mistake. Because unless she was going to go in there and pull a Brock Lesnar and just destroy Toni and dominate, that was always going to end with her losing. And I don't know why you would want to do that right away. It's like when Mina signed full-time and moved to the States. The first thing they did with her when she was back on TV was give her a world championship match. Toni has a tendency to rush these women into these things. They lose. And then it's like, well, I hope he has some other great plan for them. So coming out of this women's, tag team title tournament, assuming that her and Marina Shafir are not going to win, I think you could absolutely build up Megan Bayne as, again, more of a dominant singles performer and have a program with her and Chris Statlander. And maybe if you want to, you could put the title on Megan Bayne. And then maybe eventually Jamie Hayter is built up to beat Megan Bayne for the belt. But as far as what this next option is going to be, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know. And if you were watching this show hoping to get an answer to that question, then you were disappointed. We had a Continental Classic Gold League match with Darby Allin against the Jet, Kevin Knight, which was a first time ever meeting between the two. Knight roughed up Darby early on, so he quickly went outside to create distance. Knight, though, threw him into the barricade and then launched off of it with a moonsaw, all in one motion. Back inside, Allin cut off a springboard, sending Knight crashing outside and then following with a running dive. Darby went for a coffin drop, but Knight sprung to his feet. He hit an avalanche back suplex for the double down into the commercial break. Darby attempted the Last Supper. We've seen him win matches in the past with that move, but he did not win here. Knight avoided a death drop. Each man got ahead of steam. They both collided with lariats, turning one another inside out. Darby was sent out to the ramp. Knight tried a springboard. He missed, but connected on a pendulum DDT. Darby was trying to beat the count, which gave Knight a chance to clear the top rope. So you got to picture this now. He launches himself from inside the ring, out over the top rope, onto Darby on the ramp. And it wasn't just like a crossbody. It was a lariat. He took him down hard. It was a hard clothesline. And he took Darby down with it on the ramp. Back inside, Knight missed a UFO splash as Darby flew in with a code red for a close 2. Darby wanted a coffin drop. He got crotched, though, into a tree of woe. Knight sprung to the opposite corner. Not even on the opposite side of the ring. Same side of the ring, opposite corner. So picture what Seth did to Cody when he fucked up his shoulder at Crown Jewel. And Knight does the coast to coast. Beautiful coast to coast dive. From one corner to the other, the drop kick. And after that, the UFO splash followed, and Kevin Knight scores a clean pin in the middle of the ring on Darby Allin, which shocked me. It shocked me because Darby is coming off a loss to Pac at Full Gear. So I thought they would want to get him back in the win column here. So I was not expecting a Kevin Knight win. I was pleasantly surprised to see that. Because Kevin Knight is one of those young guys on the roster that you do hear people talking about, that they have, high hopes for him. There's great potential there. He's someone who, like a Kyle Fletcher, I think you can really build up as one of your sort of AEW homegrown talents if you just put the work in to really help get him there. He's super athletic. He's super talented. We still really haven't seen him come out of his shell yet because he's part of a tag team. There's not a whole lot of singles focus on him, but he's got all the potential in the world to be someone special in this company. Giving him wins over bigger names than him is the easiest, quickest way to go to help get him over to that next level. Whatever you think about Darby, if you think Darby's world champion material or not, they have, certainly, I think, booked him in a way that he's going to be a world champion one day. And Darby is one of their top. Not Kyrie, Darby. You got to get it right. Darby is one of their top baby faces. You get a win over one of your top baby faces, you done something. So that was a big win for him. And also the match itself I thought was very good. And the biggest win of Kevin Knight's career so far. I would call it an upset. That's the second one already in this tournament. Night number 1. We already have 2 upsets. But using this tournament as a vehicle to get somebody like a Kevin Knight over is not a bad idea. They go backstage. Eddie Kingston said that he didn't want to talk about Hook right now. He wasn't in the mood to address what happened with Hook. Okay, then. He said that he is not in line for a title shot against Samoa Joe, but taking out his boy Shibata on Collision would get him a little bit closer. So he issues a challenge, and the match was very quickly made official. This was a cop-out. I get they want to save it for a later date, maybe do a face-to-face with him and Hook, but to not even address it or sell any real rage or anger over what happened, that was a cop-out. And they closed the show with one more Continental Classic match. I told you they had a whole bunch of them here on this show. Another Continental Classic match, this one from the Blue League, Claudio Castagnoli against Orange Cassidy. We just saw this match. If you're looking at this going, wait, didn't we just see this match? Yes, we did a few weeks ago, actually. It was one of the Blood and Guts Advantage matches, and Claudio beat Orange Cassidy. It was earlier this month. So we got it again here. And we were told by Excalibur that Cassidy demanded that Tony Khan move his match with Claudio up to tonight after what happened with Kyle O'Reilly at Full Gear. Because everybody in this league is going to wrestle each other once. So I guess this match was supposedly scheduled for next week or the week after, but he wanted it now. So Tony Khan gave him the match tonight. So Claudio tried to rush right at the bell. Cassidy avoided it into a series of pin attempts. Claudio finally was able to stop the momentum with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. And then outside on the floor, Claudio hit a giant swing into the side of the announce desk, into the timekeeper's barricade. Back in the ring, Claudio continued to ragdoll this man around. Later on, Cassidy sold his back after failing to pick Claudio up for a beach break. Claudio charged at him in the corner, but he went shoulder first into the post. On the floor, Cassidy landed a tornado DDT. Then he delivered a Stundog Millionaire back in the ring and climbed up to the top rope. Cassidy, though, dove right into a European uppercut. Got a close near fall out of that one. Claudio went for another uppercut. Cassidy, though, interrupted it with an orange punch, and then another, and then finally a beach break for a very close near fall. Both men struggled to their feet. Claudio landed a huge lariat. Cassidy avoided a powerbomb with a reversal into a pinning attempt, but he got a 2 count only. Claudio then landed another pop-up uppercut, and he scored the win. So after the match was over, the rest of the Death Riders, they come out and they join in the ring to celebrate Claudio's big win. Renee gets into the ring, and she says Claudio is the only one to compete in all 3 Continental Classics. And as she's talking, Wheeler Yuta gets into it with Orange Cassidy, who's fighting back. So the Death Riders all attack Cassidy, and a nice little touch here. Marina Shafir, she makes sure that she gets Renee out of harm's way. And Renee exits there, because of course, Mrs. Moxley, we got to get her out of harm's way. So Renee leaves the ring. So Roderick Strong, Kyle Fletcher, Konosuke Takeshita, Kevin Knight, Speedball, Mascara Dorada, they all hit the ring for this giant heatless brawl. I wrote this in big words here. Heatless brawl. Until Dorada hit a moonsault onto a pile of bodies outside. Outside of the moonsault spot, this was honestly the quietest that I have heard any crowd for one of these types of brawls. Because there was no reason for it. Like, guys are just randomly running. I mean, I get that these are all the guys that are in the Continental Classic, right? But that's literally the only reason that these men ran out to the ring. Now, why would they even run out to the ring? It was just weird. The fuck is Mascara Dorada running back out there for? Because he lost to Moxley earlier, so what? So they're all brawling out there. Nobody really seems to give much of a shit. But then they show Okada, who's on the ramp, just sort of watching everything. And that's how they went off the air. So that's back-to-back losses now for Orange Cassidy to Claudio. They had a decent match here. Honestly, this was the weakest out of all of the Continental Classic matches here on this show. But Moxley winning and Claudio winning gives them both some momentum when they pull up next week to Dynamite. And on Dynamite next week, it was confirmed. We are getting Jon Moxley one-on-one with Claudio Castagnoli. Death Rider against Death Rider. And that is where, hopefully, something will happen at the end of this match. Now, we know that there won't be any interference in the match because it's not allowed. When the match is over, and if I had to predict who is going to win that match. I would say Claudio. It could go Moxley, and then Claudio just snaps and they all fucking beat the shit out of him. I'm going to go Claudio wins, but there needs to be an angle here. And it would seem that at the end of this match, coming out of this match next week, that would be the perfect time to do it if they're going to drop Moxley where he stands. That next week should be the week. And that's what they closed the show with. A major angle where Jon Moxley is excommunicated from the Death Riders. Maybe they wait until the end of the tournament. That's also possible. But this has been building for a while now. And it's just a matter of which week are they going to pull the trigger, and what is that angle going to look like? Is it something where Moxley gets up in their faces and putting his finger in their chest and pushing their buttons until they finally say, fuck this guy? Is it a shocking thing that, we're kind of expecting it, but like in the moment, nobody's really expecting it, and then they kind of drop him in this like shocking moment? I would love for them to try to find more of a shocking way to do this. It could be a really major angle. But that is what that match needs to be in some form, has to be leading to here. It's one of the reasons why I look at this tournament this year, and it's not just Takeshita and Okada, like the Moxley and Claudio angle. Like you're weaving story into this tournament, but only if it leads to something tangible. Only if it leads to something, impactful. A major angle, a major turn, a major twist coming out of that match next week. That's what I'm looking for. First time I'm actually looking forward to a Death Riders segment in a very long time. So that match will be taking place on next week's show. The way things are standing right now in the Gold League, 3 points to Kyle Fletcher and Kevin Knight. So they're on top right now. In the Blue League, 3 points to Jon Moxley and to Claudio. It's still early. None of this really matters. And again, we all know who's going to the finals. But that is your Dynamite review. Very simple. With these several weeks coming up of Dynamite, a lot of it is going to revolve around this tournament. So if you're not a Continental Classic fan, it's kind of like the people who really don't like Forbidden Door, especially in the early years of Forbidden Door. It's not as much of an issue these days, but like the first year they did it, maybe the second one, a lot of New Japan guys on the show, and not all of them available to be on TV to really build up to the pay-per-view. It could be rough to sit through some of those shows. If you're really not into that, you just want to pick up with AEW stories. I don't give a shit about, this company against that company. There's some people who hate the build to Forbidden Door. There's also people who hate the build to, World's End because it's just so heavily focused on a tournament that maybe they don't care about. I like the tournament. I like for the most part, the makeup of the tournament this year. And as long as they could weave some story threads into it to try to make it interesting, like the Death Rider stuff, the Callis family stuff, that's really all I hope for. I don't just want the matches for the sake of the matches, but you can weave some big angles into it, advance some stories. Then I think you're making use of this tournament in a productive way. We'll see what shakes out on Collision tomorrow night. I will not be watching Collision tomorrow night. I will be eating a lot of food at someone else's house that they will make. My job is to show up and eat. That's my only job tomorrow. I will not be watching Collision. I'll catch up with anything important that happens after the fact. There will be no SmackDown review on Friday, but I will be live with you the next time. Will be for the Survivor Series, which is coming up. The Survivor Series used to be the Thanksgiving Eve tradition. There was a time where today we'd be watching Survivor Series. That hasn't been the case in a very long time. But I will be live here on the channel Saturday night after Survivor Series War Games. So make sure you join me here for that. Should be a good time on the stream, at least, if nothing else. We always have fun on the streams, even if the actual events are not always fun. What did you think of the Thanksgiving Eve episode of Dynamite? 48.8% thumbs up, 51.2% thumbs down. That was quite the swing. So when I checked before I went live, it was 64 up. So now we're down to 48. How low will it go? I don't know. but it's below the equator line right now. At Solomonster is where you can go vote. Just below mid. That's right, Bliss fan. KD says, I don't think anyone will be watching Collision. The sickos will be watching Collision. What do you think they're going to be watching when they're eating Thanksgiving dinner? They're going to have Collision on in the background. We are currently at 250 likes, by the way. I mean, I knew Thanksgiving Eve was going to be a struggle, but the goal is still 400, so we may have to table Be the Booker until Saturday night. But there's still time if you want to work on it. Just hit that like button. That's all you got to do. Football, yeah. And more people will be watching football than Collision. Joseph Stewart. You know, I want to wish a very happy Thanksgiving to everybody, but especially my boy Joseph, who always shows up here on the streams and supports, and I very much appreciate that support. So Joseph, wherever you may be, I hope that you have a very happy Thanksgiving. Happy and safe. What are your thoughts on Dominic Mysterio being offered a movie role in Hollywood? I don't believe that's happened yet. I think it probably will happen at some point. I don't know if he has the same representation that a lot of the other WWE talents had with Paradigm, but I mean, I don't really care either way. It'll probably happen at some point. Have you seen the movie Kingpin with Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid, and Bill Murray? I never saw Kingpin. I just never had any interest in seeing it. What movies will you be watching during the holidays? Well, 2 movies. I always make sure that Thanksgiving week or weekend at some point, I haven't yet, but I always around this time of year make it a point to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like, that's the ultimate Thanksgiving movie. With Steve Martin and John Candy. And then Christmas, of course, the ultimate Christmas movie. Die Hard. I'll make sure I watch Die Hard. I want to try to watch Jingle All the Way at some point. Turbo Man. That's another great Christmas movie. There you go. Were you a fan of Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I was a huge Shredder fan. When I was a kid, that was one of my favorite figures, was the Shredder figure. And as soon as NECA came out with a Super Shredder figure, which they did a few years ago, I made sure I bought one. So I have it on display. The Super Shredder, it's like 6 inches tall. Fucking love Super Shredder. Who was your favorite turtle? Leonardo. He had the blue sash. Blue is my favorite color. Happy heavenly birthday to Tina Turner. Happy birthday. Do you miss SmackDown coming on Thursday nights, especially on Thanksgiving night? I don't, because I don't watch wrestling on Thanksgiving. I used to when Survivor Series was on Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving is a wrestling-free night. I don't think the people that I am with would want to watch wrestling anyway. Was Shawn Michaels' gimmick from the 90s supposed to be the same character as Austin Powers? No. Austin Powers came out after. One has nothing to do with the other. What was Diesel's gimmick based on in 1995 when he was the champion? A truck driver. That's why he had trucking noises when he was a heel, when he would come out to the ring. Do you think Macaulay Culkin would have been a good Robin in the 90s opposite Michael Keaton as Batman? No, I do not. I don't see that at all. Macaulay Culkin said in a recent interview that he would like to play Kevin again in a new Home Alone movie being about Kevin's son. Would you like to see Macaulay Culkin return as Kevin? You know, I saw that report. I saw that quote. where he said that his idea for a new Home Alone movie would be that he's a parent now, and I guess he gets locked out of his house by his kid who won't let him back in, and then his kid sets traps for him. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but I mean, it's just a lot of the same shit, but just he's now in the role of the parent. So, I mean, I think it could be something fun. I would not sit here and tell you that I'm dying to see a sequel made. If it gets made, great. I'll probably see it. If it doesn't, I'll sleep well at night. And have I seen the Macaulay Culkin movie Page Master? No, but I did see The Good Son. What's going on, Byron? Were you a fan of the Gold Member character that Mike Myers played? No, not really. Do you remember Dustin Hoffman's movie, The Graduates? I do. Do you remember the movie Grumpy Old Men with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon? Yeah, and Grumpy Old Men 2, the sequel. Jack Lemmon was also great in the remake of 12 Angry Men. Were you a fan of Jim Carrey's movie Liar Liar? It was all right. It was all right. Did you know Batman's villain Mad Hatter was in the Adam West Batman TV show? I do, because you told me that the other day. It's the only reason I know that. Do you remember the Pixar Disney movie A Bug's Life? And who is your favorite character on A Bug's Life? I did not see A Bug's Life. I do not like bugs. I do not want to know about their lives. So I did not see it. I like to end their lives. Do you remember the Disney movie Emperor's New Groove? Well, that sounds familiar to me, but it doesn't sound like the kind of movie I would be interested in seeing. What was the first Disney movie that you saw in theaters? I don't know the first one I saw in theaters. I could just tell you that, you know, as a kid, I saw movies like Snow White and Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid. So I don't even know if those were all Disney movies necessarily, but 101 Dalmatians. I have no memory of seeing any of those in the actual theater, though. Did you like the pairing of Mark Marrow and Sable? I mean, it was fine. I didn't really care for it one way or the other. Do you think Mark Marrow could have been one of the top stars during the Attitude Era if he didn't injure himself in mid-97? Top stars, no. He was not going to be a top star in the Attitude Era. Do you think Mark Marrow will go into the WWE Hall of Fame? Do I think he'll go in? You know what? I could see him going in at some point. I think he does motivational speaking these days. He did win an Intercontinental title in that company, and he had a pretty good run for himself as Johnny B. Bad in WCW. So I think that, yes, there's a decent chance he'll go in. Did you know Stone Cold? Oh, wait. I missed one. What is your favorite Johnny B. Bad match in WCW? I don't have one. I know he feuded with DDP. I don't have a favorite Johnny B. Bad match, though. I don't have a favorite Mark Marrow match, now that I think about it. And buy or sell Wildman Mark Marrow or Johnny B. Bad? I'll go Wildman. Do you think the Headbangers will go into the WWE Hall of Fame? No. What is your favorite Mark Marrow match in WWE? Don't have one. What is your favorite Johnny B. Bad match in WCW? Don't have one. I didn't know you were such a big Johnny B. Bad fan. Did you know Stone Cold had a match with Macho Man in WCW? I did not know that. I know he had a match with Sting on WCW Saturday Night. As I watched that, it was either Saturday Night or Main Event. It was one of those syndicated shows from the Disney studio. I only know that because I saw that not too long ago. I think on The Vault they put it up. Was I a fan of Sable's theme song? Yeah, it was kind of catchy, actually. I'll take that over any of this Def Rebel, or not any of it. I'll take that over like 85% of this Def Rebel shit. Were you a fan of Triple H and Chyna's song Our Time? Yes, that was a bitchin' song. Do you remember MTV doing WWE Week during SummerSlam in '99 and Triple H and Chyna were the host? Never saw it. Do you remember the Triple H and Chyna documentary, Our Time, in mid-'99, showing Triple H and Chyna traveling together? I do remember that. Were you a fan of the Jeff Jarrett and Deborah pairing? It's funny, you know, they did that pairing in two companies. They did it in WCW and then they did it again in WWE. Do you think Deborah McMichael will go into the Hall of Fame? No. Happy anniversary to Robin Williams' movie Flubber. It was released on this day in 1997. Is that a cartoon? I don't even know what that's about. Bland dried chicken and turkey. What an appropriate name here on Thanksgiving Eve. Happy Thanksgiving and happy Stranger Things Day. How the hell did WWE miss the opportunity to collaborate with Stranger Things last Monday? Stranger Things does not need to collaborate with WWE. Joseph Stewart, did you know James Bond was the inspiration for Indiana Jones? That's the reason why Sean Connery was cast as Indiana Jones' father in The Last Crusade. That's interesting. I'm a James Bond guy. I was never an Indiana Jones guy. Which wrestlers would be great as part of the cast of Saturday Night Live? For me, it's Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, John Cena, Seth Rollins, Bayley, AJ Styles, and Alexa Bliss. How can you not say R-Truth? You list all those names, you don't include R-Truth in that. I think he'd be perfect for something like that. I can see Dom actually doing well on there. LA Knight. Solomonster, this is from Dried Chicken. Solomonster, if anyone from your friends or family cooking deep fried turkey, tell them do not add too much cooking oil on the pot. I'm not going to give anybody any cooking advice. I'm the last person who should be giving any kind of cooking or culinary advice. I trust that they know what they're doing, you know? It would be like being in the back of an Uber and telling the driver, no, you should go this way. I would think that if you're an Uber driver, you would be pretty pissed off at the other person telling you how to drive into your job. So I'm just going to let them do their thing. Dried Chicken says, looking back on so much bloodshed that happened at Full Gear, Dracula would take a sponge, wipe down every single wrestler who bled, squeeze the sponge, and drink it out of a wine glass. You could do that. Buckets of blood were spilled over the last 2 weeks in this company. Thanksgiving is tomorrow and Black Friday is in 2 days. The Blood and Guts winning teams are having Thanksgiving dinner together. Losing teams have to help Solomonster shopping on Friday. Solomonster's not doing any shopping on Friday. You forgot to mention Cyber Monday, by the way. The deals continue into the beginning of next week. Can you imagine Okada and Takeshita sharing the Thanksgiving dinner table with the entire Don Callis family? And they volunteer to cut the turkey. Well, there's a skit idea that they should have gone with. They didn't do it. Oz and Glorious, happy C2 season to all who celebrate. I know, he's a big Continental Classic guy. Is Oz and Glorious. Is it true that some grifter said Human Vomit Logan Paul is better than Takeshita and everyone in AEW? There was someone who said that, yes. And I think that they were looking to get a reaction, and they got the reaction they were looking for. Moore says Andrade confirmed he's facing a year non-compete. Yeah, well, we kind of already knew that. And I didn't see the rest of his quote. But if he's smart, he's working with an attorney, and that'll be taken care of very soon. Because there's no way that Andrade is going to be sitting at home for a year. I guarantee you he will not be sitting on the sidelines for anywhere close to a year. And if he doesn't retain a lawyer to get this taken care of soon, then he's not too bright. Fox. With a Fox emoji. With a $4.99. Hey, Fox, thank you, man. Happy Thanksgiving. Arabian Night. Did you see or listen to the Andrade interview today? I did not. I only saw a brief quote. I don't know what else he said in the interview. I have no idea. I will have to take a look at it later. If it's anything worth covering, then I will mention it on the sound off. The Admiral, David Robinson. Oh, man. I remember watching him play. I remember watching Karl Malone play also. It's too bad he turned into such a piece of shit. Buy, sell, or rent. What is the best game winner in sports? Walk-off home run. We just had this the other day. Walk-off home run, buzzer beater, three-pointer, or game-winning touchdown. I just had this question on Monday. It's the walk-off home run. Nothing better than a walk-off home run. You know how hard it is to hit a home run? You know how difficult that is? The big fundamental. We go from David Robinson to Tim Duncan. We got some San Antonio fans here, huh? MetLife Stadium is so ugly, it looks like an old AC unit from the 1970s. I hate it so much, and I believe that the Jets and Giants are cursed because their stadium is a dumpster fire. Man, I hate MetLife. Well, tell me how you really feel. Look, I've been to MetLife Stadium twice for 2 WrestleManias, 29 and 35. And from what I remember, it was not a nice stadium. And I've heard other people who do go to Giants games or Jets games who complain a lot about the stadium. It's just kind of a dump. Which is too bad. I think it's silly that the Giants and the Jets still have to share a stadium together. I think that's ridiculous enough. Duff's Vids on Thanksgiving Eve with a 1999. Home from the hospital, most tests came back good or normal. Glad to be home? I'm glad that everything came back normal. Miss Dynamite, transplant is on the table. 1 biopsy needs to be done for the liver to see if double transplant is needed. Thank you for the prayers, everyone. Well, we are all thinking about you and sending you all the positive vibes and energy that we can. You're a part of our family here. And only good things from here on out, or as good as they can be. And a very happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Yeah, and it's in New Jersey. The New York Jets and the New York Giants don't even play in New York. Like, how ridiculous is that? Oz and Glorious, thank you for the $2. Yeah, we got some people hanging over the top rope tonight. Hit that like button. Casper the Tryhard with a $9.99. Something Batman, something. Oh man, come on, you love Batman. Come on, Casper. Casper the Tryhard. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. Washington Commander Stadium. I've not been to the Washington Commander Stadium, so I can't speak to that. A very sad woodworm. Hey, Solo. First time chatter, long time viewer since 2016. Love your work. Can you tell me your 3 favorite Cena matches? Well, John Cena and CM Punk Money in the Bank 2011. I just think it's the perfect match. Just there's like a magical feeling with just that atmosphere in Chicago, the story behind it with Punk, his contract being up. It was just perfect. 5 stars all the way. I would go Cena and AJ Styles. I'm partial to their SummerSlam match in 2016, where AJ just beat him clean. I was there. Great match. But then they had that match at the Rumble in 2017 at the Alamo Dome, which never left the ring. They never left the ring that entire match. No plunder, no spots on the announce desk. They just had a wrestling match, and it was great. And that's when Cena won number 16 and tied Ric Flair. So I kind of go back and forth between those two, but I'm inclined to say, I'll just say Cena AJ. How about that? We'll keep it nebulous. So that's 2. I got to pick a third one, huh? I don't know. I might have to go with the Cena Lesnar Extreme Rules match in 2012. That was a spectacle. That's what that was. I think those would be my 3. The Uffman. I like your new logo. Just rewatched Mina making her entrance from tonight. 1 word, damn. I said she was busting out of that top. 2 words, damn. 3 words, yeah. You can keep going all night. Arabian Night. Could they use Renee in the turn on Mox to get heat? I don't think they want to do that. I think they want Renee to be the straight-laced reporter, interviewer. They could. I don't think they will. Uffman says Batman Returns is a Christmas movie. You know what? I think you could definitely make a case for it. There's this really stupid thing going on right now. And honestly, my 2 cents, I think this is just people who don't like the fact that every year we have the debate about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie, which it is. And so they've manufactured this nonsensical argument just to kind of fuck with those people. That The Thing is a Christmas movie. Apparently this is, no pun intended, this is The Thing this year. Where they say the Thing from 1982, the John Carpenter movie, is a Christmas movie. And I didn't read the whole article that I saw about it, but apparently it has to do with the fact that it's in the winter and the snow. Like, it's really dumb shit. Like, no, The Thing is not a Christmas movie. But Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And you'll never convince me otherwise. Mystic J. I just realized that this might be the last year where WWE's Big Four will be all on one night. No. I mean, the Rumble next year is one night. So we know that. Survivor Series is not... I don't see Survivor Series as a strong enough show right now to go 2 nights. I think there's a better chance Money in the Bank goes 2 nights before Survivor Series does. But like the next event to go 2 nights will be the Rumble. Whatever year it is, 2027 maybe. If there's another PLE that goes 2 nights, it will be the Royal Rumble. From there, if they continue that trend, you're looking potentially at Elimination Chamber, you're looking at Money in the Bank. I think before we ever get a 2-night Survivor Series. Isaac, buy, sell, or rent Survivor Series 96, 02, and 2011. Those are all Madison Square Garden Survivor Series. I just realized. Yeah, I'm buying on 96. I'm going to rent on 02, and I'm going to sell on 2011. Even though that was the one that I was actually at. Jeremy Rose, buy, sell, rent. Noodle pudding, pumpkin pie, or pecan pie. I got to buy on noodle pudding. I'm going to have some of that tomorrow. I can't wait. I'm going to rent on pecan pie and sell on pumpkin pie. I actually was looking for a pumpkin pie. I'm sorry, not a pumpkin pie. I was looking for a pecan pie to buy for Friday because I have to go to another Thanksgiving thing on Friday night. Couldn't find a pecan pie, but they had pumpkin pecan pie. And if you could believe it, I have never had pumpkin pie. So this is going to be my first time trying a pie that has even a little bit of pumpkin in it. Believe it or not. We're going to have some pumpkin pecan pie on Friday night. I'm very interested. I don't even know why I've never tried it before. All things pumpkin never really appealed to me, as much as I love Halloween. All things pumpkin just never really appealed to me. So that'll be my first time trying that. Jeremy also says, we really only getting 4 matches at Survivor Series? What the fuck are we doing? I'll tell you where you're what you're doing. You're going to be getting multiple ad breaks. You're going to be getting super long entrances. And that's how they're going to fill up over 3 hours. You're not going to have time for any other matches. Pumpkin pie needs to be heated up with ice cream? Well, then I'm definitely not having any. Thanks, you just ruined it for me. Jeremy says, did you see Russo on Helwani? Not a fan of his, but his opinion about how to make wrestling shows entertaining makes sense. I actually did watch it. I tried to tolerate it. He was on there for like an hour. And it was Russo. It was Russo being Russo. He has his philosophy on things, and there you go. I'm guessing Joe getting another title run means we won't see him in WWE again anytime soon or ever again. Probably not, and that's fine. That's WWE's loss. They're the ones who fired him twice, so fuck them. If somebody fired me twice, I would not be in any great rush to go crawling back there. My attitude, and I'm not saying Joe's a pro. I don't think this is Joe's attitude, but my attitude would be go fuck yourself. You don't want me? Okay, cool. I'll take my services somewhere else and I'll give them before I give you. WWE doesn't deserve Samoa Joe. Low King, what's your hot take for 1999 WWF? My hot take for 1999 WWF is that it wasn't as good as some people like to remember it being. I'll take 98 over 99. Oz and Glory is 54 months of channel membership. 54 months. Where's the platinum skull? I don't know. What skull do you have for 54 months? Whatever skull it is, you should have it. Rojo Bear with 45 months. You got some catching up to do to catch up to Oz and Glorious. Happy Thanksgiving, Rojo Bear. And Tuxedo T Servo has 51 months of membership. Happy Thanksgiving to all here who celebrate. Same to you. Same to everyone. Austin Tucker, hey Solo, I'm going to my first AEW show next Wednesday. Can't wait. I hope to see Adam Page and Jamie Hayter. I don't know if you're going to see Jamie Hayter, but you probably will see Hangman. Probably not wrestling, but he should be there. Kairi will not be. She will not be on Dynamite next week. KD17 Burger. Yeah, I these fucking names. Apparently it's like this on everyone's channel now. They just went right back to this @ bullshit where everyone's name is gone and now it's just your handle. It's just YouTube being YouTube. I actually reached out to YouTube a few months ago when this happened the first time. And I said, how come? Because some channels still have the regular names. I'm like, how come they have names and I don't? And they said, oh, it's a new change that we're rolling out. I said, well, can we opt out of it? Nope. It's being rolled out across all of YouTube, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. Thanks, YouTube. KD says, nice shout out to the great Tina Turner. You saw Weapons. I saw it in the theaters and hated it, but Amy Madigan as the loony aunt stole the film and deserves an Oscar nomination. Your thoughts? She was very creepy in that movie. She was very creepy. I don't know about nominations. I don't know what the competition is this year, but she was very creepy. I like Josh Brolin in that movie too. Oz says, still on the Blue Skull. Noodle pie tomorrow. Yes. Yes. I've already said if it's not being served, I'm not showing up. My attendance is contingent upon that being prepared for tomorrow. Jeremy says, what's the low? We going to get 3-match card, 2-match card, 1 match. Seriously, no jokes. What can they really give us? They can do anything they want to. And people will eat up their slop no matter what they do. I always thought that was going to be Vince McMahon's ultimate play, was to eventually get rid of the ring altogether and just have like a giant variety show for 2 hours of just skits and comedy. Ah, that's good shit, pal. And just get rid of the wrestling matches altogether. I'm surprised he never did it. Duff's Vids. Do you think Triple H is doing 4-match cards on one-night PLEs to make fans want 2 nights for most, if not all, PLEs eventually? And the money. No, I really don't. I don't think that's factoring into his decision to do this. I think it really does just have more to do with they're going to give a lot of time to the War Games matches, at least 40 minutes for each one. And they are going to fill in the time in between the matches with WrestleMania advertisements because the tickets are going on sale, I think, is it Friday? I think tickets might be going on sale Friday. And so whatever their advertisements are going to be, and then the long, elaborate entrances. I mean, dude, like the entrances for men's War Games alone that's 20 minutes right there. Probably be about the same for the women. Then you have the actual match. I mean, if they don't have any, good ideas for anything else on the show, I'm not saying they should just throw matches on there for the sake of doing them, but I don't know why we can't get that happy medium between WWE and AEW. Like WWE, they give you too few matches, and then AEW gives you too many matches. I mean, why is this so hard? 6 matches. Boom. There you go. Perfect. It's got to be a happy medium here. But I will admit to you one thing. I would rather have these 5-match WWE PLEs than these 10 or 12 or 13 match AEW pay-per-views, which I think it's just fucking ridiculous. I'll take some of the 5-match cards, honestly. Especially as a content creator, it's just a lot easier for me to navigate. You may feel differently if you're paying $40 for the AEW pay-per-view, but I cannot stand the length of those shows. Like, it is a huge, huge turnoff for me. Absolutely cannot stand the length of those shows. WrestleMania and SummerSlam should have 8 on each night. I disagree. That's too many. You don't need 16 matches. Why are we overloading these shows with matches? I don't understand. You can have 6 matches on each night of WrestleMania. Maybe it's WrestleMania, maybe 7. You don't need more than that. SummerSlam, you don't need more than that. 6 or 7 matches max per night. That's fine. That's fine. You really don't need more than that. Even if AEW pay-per-views blow the WWE ones away on most nights, but it's too long. Yeah. I mean, we can get into a debate about the quality of the shows. AEW, consistently, they know how to put on great pay-per-views, but like I'm trying to put myself in the head of like Hangman and Joe as they're getting ready to go out to the ring at the end of that show on Saturday, and I'm like, Why would you want to be in that position? Mercedes and Statlander, their match was absolutely hindered by the fact that people were just fucking exhausted by that point. It drains you. Nobody can keep that energy up for 5 straight hours like that. It's not possible. You can't do it. That's why you end up with matches near the end that are just, they feel fucking dead. Oz says, if there were only 6 matches, how would you fill up 4 hour on Tuesday? Oh, we have plenty of time. We talk about news and everything. Yeah. And the watch time, we set a watch time record this week. More people watch us than they do some of the actual wrestling shows. Talk about a lot more than just fucking matches. That's fucking boring. I want to talk about some controversy. I want to talk about some behind the scenes shit. That's what makes it fun. That's why I started first following wrestling news back in the late 90s, in the early 2000s. I was fascinated by the backstage happenings and the goings on and the contract news and who's jumping here and who's going there. That's more entertaining than what we see on the actual television shows. Are you kidding me? Lucky Dog says, I do wish Tony started the pay-per-views earlier. No more 5 p.m. start times. Make it 3 p.m. He's not going to do 3 p.m. for every show, but even starting it at 7 instead of 8, it's still too much, but I mean, it would make it a little bit better, Now, again, on the West Coast, you don't have that issue. On the East Coast, though, it's a killer. It's an absolute killer. Yeah, he's going to have some earlier start time. I mean, the shows are always going to be long. That's not going to change. So the start times need to change. He has said that the earlier start times actually didn't hurt them at all. If anything, it might have helped them. So I'd like to see them do that more often. Says, that's why I listen to you instead of watching WWE. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people like you out there who listen to and watch the podcast and don't actually watch the product. Because look, when you're a wrestling fan, you're always a wrestling fan. Like, even if you kind of grow out of it, you get bored with it, you still want to keep up with what's going on. So maybe you'll check clips on their YouTube channels and highlights of stuff. But what do a lot of those people do, right? They listen to podcasts and they watch, YouTube streams and they keep up with what's going on. It's like, no different than people who like sports talk radio. They watch the games, but, they love listening to all the blowhards on fucking sports radio who are, talking about it the next day. Questioning all the decisions that were made in the games over the weekend. How come they did this? How come the coach didn't do that? Let's go to Sandy from Bay Ridge. You're on the air, right? People love sports talk radio. Those guys get paid millions of dollars. Why do you think? There's just certain people that they enjoy their perspective on things. And they enjoy commiserating with other people who also feel the same way that they feel. Get a lot of the same thing with wrestling and wrestling content creators. Who's watching football tomorrow? Not this guy, but there'll be a lot of people who are watching football tomorrow. I don't even know who's playing tomorrow. Who's playing tomorrow? I don't even know what the game is tomorrow. Ricky, I love you too. He listens to the Sound Off every Sunday afternoon. Thank you, Ricky. That's why you've kept the show going for 18 years. Almost 2 decades. That's crazy. We had a great podcast this past weekend. We'll have another one this weekend. Talk Survivor Series Fallout. And we'll talk a little bit of AEW. If there's any news on that front, I got to go check out this Andrade stuff. We're going to get back to your questions. So you can email me. We'll be doing a mailbag this weekend. That'll be episode 940. So I'm going to wrap this up here. This has been fun hanging out with you guys here on Thanksgiving Eve. And I hope you guys, wherever you may be, if you are celebrating and feasting tomorrow night, not fisting, I said feasting. I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm very thankful for all of you being here with me every single week. Whether or not you're watching the actual television shows, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to. I watch so you don't have to. And I'm grateful for all of your support, all of your super chats, just hanging out in the chat, chatting away with everybody else. And I will see you back here again live on Saturday night. We'll be talking Survivor Series War Games. And then on Sunday, episode 940 of the podcast coming up this weekend. Duff's Vids is going to get the last word here. On a Pole, bro, $9.99 super chat. Was beginning to watch the 96 Survivor Series, and I saw Marty Jannetty was limping. Do you know if he was just working or did he legit get hurt? And what was the injury? I believe that was a legit injury. I believe he rolled his ankle. I believe, a legitimate ankle injury. If I'm remembering, if that's the right Survivor Series that I'm thinking of. Yeah, and unfortunately these days, I don't know which foot or which ankle it is, but he's had some severe ankle issues in recent years where he's posted pictures of it. It's nasty. It's really disgusting. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I think he legitimately rolled it, and that's what it was. Anyway, I'm gonna go check out some vault stuff myself. That'll be what I watch as I fall asleep tonight. I'll pop on over to the Vault YouTube channel and check out some classic Survivor Series shit from the early 90s. And I will see you back here on Saturday night for the Survivor Series. Until then, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Fuck Kevin Dunn.